And thank you for CHP for coming up with such a provocative title for the seminar we're seeing today. And actually, it's funny because so my main responsibility is to make sure that the move from AstraZeneca into the Cambridge area is successful. And that can take any form that I want it to make sure the scientists can work effectively and to make sure the buses run on time. So quite a diverse challenge. But it's interesting that so the common questions they get asked to AstraZeneca, and it's a fascination, and I'm not really surprised that it happens, is, why did AstraZeneca move? Did AstraZeneca move to Cambridge because it is the capital of life sciences? I see you didn't even put the UK. I think that means the world, Malcolm. Did you move because it already was the centre of life sciences? With AstraZeneca moving, will it become the centre of life sciences? Rarely I get, with AstraZeneca coming, is that the end of life sciences? And unfortunately, the growing question is, so post-Brexit, are AstraZeneca going to stay in Cambridge or even the UK? And just as we're filming, I'll say, yes, we are. So what I thought I'd do is, in 10 minutes, romp through AstraZeneca's strategy and point out a few areas where being in Cambridge has probably enhanced and enabled us to deliver on the strategy. And obviously, we have a considerable time for a panel session where we can take some of the more in-depth questions. So let's just start, and I don't want to get too Google-like and show lots of pictures of founders and things, but this is our CEO, Pascal Soriot. And I think with Pascal joining us in 2012, his primary focus was to get us back into science. And I think that could be said for the wider pharmaceutical industry, that reconnecting with science and a deeper understanding of science was the only way we were going to be successful moving forward. So where do you start? And I remember back in 2012, we started with a review of our therapy areas. As a large, successful pharmaceutical company who were finding our drugs were coming off patent and the revenues were going down, we had a very wide and diverse portfolio. And what rapidly became clear to us is that we would need to focus and focus very hard if we were going to be successful moving forward. And through a very painful process, we identified 3 main therapy areas where we thought we could win. They're not just areas where we thought we could win, I think they have the most patient value. So nobody in this room will not have been impacted either personally or through their families in one of our main therapy areas. So these are either life-threatening or life-damaging conditions. And we retain opportunistic-led in 2 other areas. And underlying that, we identified the key capabilities that we thought would drive our success moving forward. So we had a strong biologics platform through Cambridge Antibody Technology and through MedImmune facilities as well. Small molecules, obviously historical background in there. Devices, through a lot of the work we've done in inhalation in the old days in Sweden. Protein engineering, again, partly through our links with historical links with the LNB and others. And we had quite a lot of experience in immunotherapies, largely actually within the respiratory area, but we knew moving forward we'd be more applicable within the oncology area. So you start, strategy 101, if you like, decide where you're going to work on. This is all we do. We don't do animal health, we don't do consumer goods. We spend about $6 billion a year on R&D in those 3 areas. And we add more to that by working in collaboration with other pharma companies as well. So we put a lot of money into it. You could argue that coming to Cambridge gives us advantages in areas like oncology, CRUK and others. You could argue that for all our therapy areas, mainly on oncology. And this is our largest oncology site in the world. But starting with the basics, what you need to be successful? Well, you need a good strategy. You need to know what science you're going to work on. But it really comes down to people. So we have around 4,200 people in mid to early research and development. That's a lot of people. They're spread across 3 main sites. We have a site in Gothenburg, a site in Washington, D.C., and a site in Cambridge. About 2,000 employees in Cambridge. So learning, or lesson number 1, you can get some great people in Cambridge. What we haven't really communicated before is we've recruited about 1,000 roles into Cambridge. And part of my Brexit Select Committee discussion tomorrow is 300 of them are non-UK nationals. So being able to recruit great people is very important. And we've been able to do that. Not just great people, but they need to have diversity in their thinking. So being able to get people with diverse thinking is very important. And we believe by being in Cambridge we can do that. And you can see that we have the value chain, if you like, the early postdocs, the postgraduate programs, and all the sort of things you'd imagine we'd have. But the first reason to Cambridge, you can attract fantastic people into the Cambridge area. The second thing to realise is you can't do it on your own. Coming to Cambridge, we can build up some very strong collaborations. Across the world, we have collaborations with about 250 institutes. So it's not unusual for us in Cambridge to have relationships with institutes. But these are deep interesting, thoughtful collaborations. So Hugh's just talked about the collaborations we have with the LMB. I was actually the 23rd employee at Cambridge Enterprise Technology and spent some of my early time actually working in the LMB. So actually the circular bringing everybody back together again is actually one of many Cambridge stories that anybody could tell who've worked in this area for a long time. So we have deep standing collaborations. We have over 100 collaborations with the University of Cambridge. That allows us to tap into other people's experiences, other people's expertise. We have collaborations with a lot of the local companies as well. I see a colleague from Microsoft here as well. Another advantage in Cambridge we identified earlier is the idea of convergence, bringing diverse technologies, diverse knowledge industries together to move things forward, data industries moving forward. So convergence is quite possible in the Cambridge area. And we also recognised one of the advantages people said, AstraZeneca came to Cambridge, theoretically at least, you're going to bring a lot of skill sets which don't currently exist in Cambridge. And we recognise that. So working with with people like the Judge Institute to mentor people in business development, promoting science, getting poor people excited through a lot of our activities is something we're very much committed to, that it's not just a case of Cambridge and AstraZeneca coming into Cambridge and taking stuff. It has to be a two-way street. That doesn't work unless you're prepared to work like the wider Cambridge community works. And again, I think that's something we can explore in the question and answer session. What does the Cambridge community look like? How does it work? How does it ensure that collaborative working actually occurs? It wouldn't be an AstraZeneca presentation without showing you pictures of the buildings. The transformational approach I've taken today is for the first time we're not showing you the computer-aided design of the new build. As I convinced Charlotte, that actually the actual building now looks more impressive than the CADs ever did. The other thing I've noticed that the sun is always shining in Cambridge, as you'll see from these pictures here. So we have the outside of the building here. That's the inside of the building, which most people haven't seen. So it's kind of like a horseshoe, a bit in the middle. For the geeks of you who want to know, the oak trees are going in next month into the middle of here. It's creating the quad so people can meet each other in Cambridge. It's porous, so you can walk through it. All about aiding collaboration. It's made of glass. And if you look on that picture on the right-hand side, everyone will hear me anyway. So this is the outside of the building. These are the offices and these are the labs. So you can see there's glass all the way through from the labs to the outside. And the idea there, and if you look at the floor above, everybody and anywhere in the building theoretically can see anybody else in the building. That's the principle. So if you're right in this corner and you look across, there's glass all the way through, right to the side. If you're on one floor, you can see down onto the next floor. So that's when I talk about buildings for collaboration. Porous, we'll have science on display, what the building you can see, the bit you can see down there. We're actually going to have some of our screening labs right bang next to that glass. And we'll have infographics showing you what's going on and what we're screening within those labs. So really reconnecting people to the science that we're doing. So almost finally, second last slide. In some ways, you could see this as much as this is kind of your big pharma slide. It's sort of like the message is it reality? And the reason I put this slide in, it's about culture, changing from a culture of doing to a culture of collaboration and innovation. And I think that's really, if I would have to describe the one thing that brought us to Cambridge, it's this. So pursuing breakthrough science through the breadth and depth of early stage pipeline. That is theoretically apparently a caspase, CRISPR. That's a representation of CRISPR. Our non-scientists sort of think that it does really look like that. No, it doesn't. It's a representation. The second one, incidentally, is a tissue microarray of an oncology sample, so that is real. So it's really about cultivating that entrepreneurial spirit where science can thrive. So what we're talking about with all these things is it's creating a safe, innovative environment. So you need people, you need diversity, you need collaboration, and you need a safe and a special work environment. A safe environment. Talking post-Brexit, you can't innovate if you're worried about where you're going to be and what's going to happen next. You can't be innovative if you think you're going to lose your job. So it's risk-taking and not fearing that through risk-taking you're going to lose your job. So it's trying to create that innovative environment, and that was the whole move to Cambridge. Was we believe within Cambridge we can create that innovative environment, all underpinned with this openness to collaboration and innovation. So the old days of being away in your ivory tower, and if you needed something, you brought it into you, have gone. We will collaborate and we will take risks, and we'll take risks in our collaborations to the extent where we don't always have to have the IP sorted out at front. We're allowed to have those conversations and decide where we're going without working out what the financial value is first. And to leave you some what-ifs, if you like, and I won't read these all out, but we've moved from an organisation which is focused on the now to an organisation which can now focus on the future, looking at areas where medicine is going to rather than where medicine is. And we think that Cambridge is a good place to do that. I think the R&D, the basic research science in the Cambridge area, the universities are strong, the charity sectors are strong, so we're very confident of our R&D future in Cambridge. So to the Brexit question, we're very comfortable at R&D, and we'll have another discussion another time about manufacturing and how we maintain our manufacturing base in the UK, which is actually a larger site up in the northwest of UK as well. So thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you on the panel.